This is your homework helper, Mrs. Anderson. Today I will help you with our test review for Chapter 9. Please have your homework page ready and let's begin. All right, to start off with, this is asking us what is the value of each expression. We know an expression is the problem before we have the answer. So let's write, and then we're going to write each sum, the answer, in simplest form. So here I have 3 6 plus 1 6. The denominators are the same, so I can just add the numerators. 3 plus 1 is 4, and the denominator is 6, so I just leave it as 6. So the answer is 4 6, but I do need to simplify. So I'm going to ask myself, what is the greatest common factor of 4 and 6? Well, I know the greatest common factor is 2. So I'll divide by 2 to get the fraction in simplest form. Let's look at number 2. I have 2/9 plus 1/3. The first thing that I do is write it in a column if the denominators are not the same, because I do need a common denominator. So I'll extend my fraction bar, and I need a common denominator. So I'm going to think of multiples of 9 and multiples of 3. Let's start with the smallest number, and if I say 3, 6, 9, oh, I said that number. So I know that my denominator is going to be 9. So I'll figure out, I'll add these up. Well, I'll multiply 2/9, and then this one I'll times by 3, times by 3, and then I go ahead and add to get the answer. Okay, let's look at number 3. Oh, number 3, I see that I have a common denominator again. So I can just add, I'm going to add the numerators. That gives me 4/3. And I'll add my whole numbers. 1 plus 4, that gives me 5. So it looks like that's my answer, 5 4/3. But the numerator is larger than the denominator, so it is not simplified all the way. So we're going to simplify. So if I have 4/3, that means I have more than a whole. So I'm going to take out a whole. If I have thirds, then a whole is going to be 3/3. So I'll take out that whole, but I can't just make it disappear. I need to put it somewhere. So this whole is going to come over here, and I will add 1 plus 5. All right, let's go back to 4/3 minus 3/3 equals 1/3. So here's my fraction, and then I have 1 plus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. So my answer is 6 1/3. Okay, looking at this one, it looks like I need to get a common denominator first, and then I think the answer does the same thing as this one, where we have the numerator is larger than the denominator. So you need to take out a whole, put the whole over here, and then figure out the rest of the problem. All right, on number 5 and 6, we're looking for the best estimate of each expression. Here I have 3 3/5. I'm going to ask myself, is 3 3/5 closer to 3 or closer to 4? Well, 3/5 is closer to 1 whole, so 3 3/4 will be closer to 4. Here I have 1 1/5, and 1/5 is closer to 0, so I will just have, it's like doing 1 plus 0, so I'll just have 1. 4 plus 1 is 5, so that will be the answer. Then I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to round to the nearest whole number and then find the answer. All right, let's look at the back here. Now I'm going to do some subtraction. 7/8 minus 1/2. I do not have a common denominator, so I'm going to write it in a column so that I can get a common denominator. I'll think of multiples of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, I did say 8. So I know that my common denominator is going to be 8, and then I'll figure out the answer from there. Here I have a common denominator, so I can just do 7 minus 2. Just do the numerators. 7 minus 2 is 5, and the denominator stays the same, and it is 9. Okay, looking at number 9. Oh, look at that. The denominators are the same in the fraction, so I can do 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 equals 2, so it will be 2/8, and then I'll do 8 minus 3 is 5, and then if I can, I simplify the fraction. Number 10. 12 9/10 minus 4 and 1/5. I am putting them in a column because I do not have a common denominator. So I need to get a common denominator. I like to look at the smallest number out of 10 and 5 and do the multiples of the smallest number. So I'm going to go 5, 10. Oh, I said 10, which tells me my denominator is going to be 10. So then I'll figure this out and subtract. Okay, number 11. 5 and 2/5. I need to write it in a column. Minus 3 and 1/3. I do need a common denominator. So my common denominator, I'm going to do multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9. Ooh, I didn't say 5. So maybe I'm going to be multiplying those two numbers together. Okay, so I get my common denominator and then figure out the rest of the problem. Let's look at number 12. Number 12 says 10 and 5/8 minus 7 and 5/8. Oh, do you know what? I don't really even need to write it in a column since I have common denominators. So I'll do 5 minus 7. Oh, I can't do 5 minus 7, so I do need to write them in a column. Okay, and now I cannot do 5 minus 7, so I'm going to need to borrow from this whole. I'll cross out the 10, write a 9. I'm going to borrow from 9. I'm going to take that whole and put it over here. Since I'm working with eighths, my whole will be 8/8. So I'll add 5 plus 8 together. And then I'll take that number and subtract 7 and write it here. Then I do 9 minus 6 for the whole number. Thanks for watching this homework helper video. If you have questions, feel free to ask me tomorrow at school.